So, bright afternoon, everyone. The topic that we're going to tackle is about gender perspective in first these sociological and physiological theories on gender. So, gender perspective is a sociological and physiological theory that examines how society influences gender roles and how these roles affect power, status, and identify. Sociological and physiological theories of gender includes gender schema theory, social learning theory, conflict theory, and symbolic interactionism. So these theories will be tackled by my group mates, and these theories help to explain how gender is defined, how gender roles are learned, and how gender is experienced. So first is the conflict theory. It is originating from Karl Marx's work. A conflict theory suggests that the power imbalances exist within household, with men holding authorities and women domestic labor, often undervalued. Friedrich Engels, in collaboration with Marx, argued that women emancipation requires their participation in large-scale production, and compared the family structure to the relationship between the bourgeoisie and proletariat, suggesting that women had less power than men in the household because they were dependent on them for wages. So, the conflict theory explains that it applied to gender, sees society as a competition between men and women for limited resources and power. It views gender inequality as a result of men seeking to maintain their dominance, leading to the exploitation and oppression of women. So, in the Karl Marx context, in bourgeoisie, it is the capitalist class who own most of society's wealth and means of production. Bourgeoisie is the people who are in the upper class, and a class of business owners, merchant, and wealthy people. While proletariat, there are workers or in working class, which people regarded collectively. So in proletariat, these are the people in social class of wage earners. In conflict theory, they argues that men is more powerful than women because men earn a lot of money or higher wages than women.
Right morning everyone, my name is Jennifer Suralta from Group 4. So my topic for today is about the functionalist perspective. So what is the functionalist perspective? It is a sociological theory that views society as a complex system where each part works together to maintain stability and solidarity. It is also known as structural functionalism. It argues that gender roles were established before the industrial era and were passed down through generations. So based on Emile Durkheim's work, functionalism emphasizes societal stability. It argues that pre-industrial societies maintain equilibrium through gender divisions of labor. However, contemporary feminists often don't fit these models because feminist critics argue that functionalism can perpetuate women's suppression. So, based sa obra ni Emile Durkheim, ang functionalism daw nagapadayon sa pagtutok sa katatagan para mas mapamaayo balaton ng society. Nagapatarungan man ini nga ang society anti sa aton nga industry mag-continue sa pagbalance paagi sa pagbahin-bahin or pagbahin-bahin sa trabaho base sa aton kasarian sa isang mag-isa. Pero subong ang mga pamilya masami nga hindi na magsunod sa mga modelo nga amusining nga tiyempo kay tungod sa kadamo sa mga critics ang feminist nagapatarungan nga ang functionalism mahimo nga maglapad tungod sa mga pagpamilit o pagpamugo sa mga babae like kinaapi na halos ng mga babae subong ganon. Ang pananaw sa functionalist pareho lang sa isang kalapad ng puzzle kung sa diin ang kada piece importante sa paghimo para complete ang larawan or ang picture. Just for example, just like this one. So hindi siya mag-complete kung kulang siya isa just like sa aton society. For Siyempre, ang kada grupo, institusyon, kag ang mga buluhaton, mayara gina sang papel nga ginahimo para mapadayon ang kanami kag ang pag-unite sang isa kag isa sa aton. Example, we have family. Ang pamilya ang mga pundasyon sa society paagi sa pagpalako sa mga bata kapag hatag sang suporta sa mga miyembro sini. Next, we have the education. Ang edukasyon naman ang naghahanda sa mga tao para sa mga trabaho kag nagapasalig sang kaalam. Next, we have the government. Ang gobyerno naman nagahatag sang serbisyo sa aton para magpatupad sa mga rules or batas kung nagahatag sa mga services sa aton in public. So, sa ining mga pananaw, nagapadayon sa pag-focus kung paano ang kadabayan sa society mag-help sa pagpadayon sa pag-balance ang pagtrabaho sini. So, that is the functionalist perspective.
So our next topic is feminist sociological theory, coming from the root word feminist, which means woman, and sociological, which means sociology or the study of society, like human behavior and social relationship. So feminist sociological theory is concerned about giving a voice to women in the society and highlighting the condition of women. So it says here that feminist sociological theory gives a voice to women so that they can share their experience and how have they been neglected or marginalized in the society. So it aims to highlight the social, economic, and political challenges that women face, advocating for equality and fair treatment. For example, sa history, women were excluded from voting, education, and leadership roles. So the feminist theory works to amplify their voice, ensuring women have the same opportunities and rights as men. So there are 4 types of feminist theories that attempts at explaining the societal differences between men and women. First, we have liberal feminist, kind from the root word liberal, which means it focuses on individual rights, freedom, and equal opportunities. So in feminism, liberals believe gender equality can be achieved through legal reforms in education. So by legal reforms, which means sa law, pagbuhon ng law. So example, in the past, women weren't allowed to own a property or to vote. So liberal feminists pushed the laws that granted these rights. Now we have the right to vote, and the why not the limit because the liberal feminists push the laws. So next we have socialist feminist. So socialist feminists view that women oppression has its roots in capitalism. So as women are cheap source of labor, they get exploited, and this in turn makes them less powerful. So, socialist naman relates to a system where wealth and resources are distributed equally. So, socialist feminists believe that gender inequality is linked to capitalism, which means pasweldo pa. Like, capitalism is a social economic thing. So, where women are exploited as cheap laborers. For example, many women in factory jobs are paid lower wages than men for doing the same work. Socialist feminists argue that capitalism exploits women by paying them less and limiting their opportunities for advancement. So the third one, we have the radical feminists. So radical feminists believe that women are oppressed due to the patriarchal values that are embedded in the society. So radical means extreme or deep-rooted change. So radical feminists naman argue that patriarchy is the main cause of women's oppression and must be dismantled completely. So patriarchy means it is a social system where men hold more power and they dominate roles like in leadership, authority, and decision making, while women were given the subordinate roles. So example, in many societies, men are expected to be the breadwinners and decision makers, while women are expected to take care of the household. So radical feminists believe that these roles need to be completely restructured for true gender equality. So we have the fourth one, which is the multiracial. So the multiracial feminists, on the other hand, look at gender, class, race as interactive factors that shape the experiences of men and women. So, the multiracial naman, it involves different races and ethnicities. So, in feminism, multiracial perspectives recognizes that gender inequality is influenced by race, class, and other social factors, making women's experience diverse. Lain-lain ang experience ng kada babae. For example, a white woman and a black woman may both face ng gender discrimination, but a black woman's experience might also experience race discrimination, racial discrimination, making her experience or oppression more complex. So multiracial feminism acknowledge these overlapping struggles. Thank you.
So next, we have the psychological perspective of gender. So psychological perspective of gender refers to how psychology explains the differences and similarities between gender in terms of behavior, roles, identity, and cognitions. It explores how biological, social, cultural factors influence the identity and expression of gender. So, first we have the evolutionary theory. The evolutionary theory proposes that our genes are adaptive and drive our behavior. In hunter-gatherer societies, gender roles emerged as survival mechanisms. So, men hunted and provided food while women stayed at home to care for children. So, evolutionary theory suggests that ang atong behaviors kag ang aton nga gender roles are shaped by genetics and survival needs. So in early human societies, ang men kag women have different gender roles. So ang men, they're the ones who provide and hunt for foods, while ang women they usually stayed at home to take good care of their children. So over time, these survival mechanisms evolve into gender differences. Men develop aggressive and competitive traits for hunting, while women develop nurturing and caring traits for raising families. These differences were believed to contribute to reproductive success and survival. So over time, ang kining gender roles ga-develop in which ang men ga-develop sila sang trait nga aggression and competitiveness, while ang women they develop nurturing and social skills since sila mostly kabilin sa balay for taking good care for their children. So however, this theory has been criticized for perpetuating traditional gender stereotypes and neglecting the influence of social and cultural factors. While biological factors play a role, they are not the sole determinants of gender. So overall, ang evolutionary theory suggests nga develop siya for survival, leading to behavioral differences over time. And however, ang gender roles are, especially nowadays, it is now flexible and not purely determined by biology.
So next is the social learning theory. This theory states that people learn gender roles through observation and reinforcement. So observation and modeling. Social learning theory introduced by Albert Bandura emphasizes that gender roles are acquired through observation and imitation of others. Children learn by watching and mimicking the behaviors of significant figures like parents, peers, and adults. So for example, sa observation and modeling is like ang parents sa bata is naay ginabuhat, then obserbahan and nakita sa bata, then possible ang katong nakita sa bata sa parents is iyahang masunod kay dako kayog influence ang makita nato matag adlaw or maobserbahan nato samtang gadako ta. Then of course dili ra pud sa parents nato makuha ang influence napod sa TV, sa social media, and of course kanang sa gina-idolize nato nya. For example, ako nakoy idol which is K-pop. Then ang ako ang naobserbahan sa ilang language. Then ako is get-try pod ko nga sundon ang ilang language. Then ga-practice ko aron makabalo pod ko sa ilang language. Next is reinforcement and punishment. Behaviors that are reinforced through rewards or punished by significant others are more likely to be incorporated into an individual's personality. This process shapes gender roles and reinforces societal expectations. So, sa reinforcement, we have positive and negative reinforcement. So, sa positive reinforcement is a process that strengthens the likelihood of a particular response by adding a stimulus after the behavior is performed. So, for example, one of my friend is bansay muluto, then gina-compliment siya sa iyahang family or sa iyahang neighbors. Then, tungod ana sa pag-compliment bitaw sa ako ang friend, mas ganahan na siya muluto og mas daghan kay gina-compliment man siya. So ang kanang pag-compliment sa iyaha maoy ga palig-on sa iyaha. Then sa negative reinforcement, it is also strengthens the likelihood of a particular response but by removing a undesirable consequence. For example, nay bata sa isa ka balay, then gisugo siya sa iyahang parents bitaw. Then ana iyahang parents nga kung mahuman nimo ang imong buhaton sa balay, dili na kinahanglan nimo hugasan ang plato. So ang pag-remove sa unpleasant task sa paghugas sa plato is the negative reinforcement para ang bata is mas mag-focus na lang sa ulubrahon sa balay.
Gender schema theory is a cognitive psychology theory that explains how people process gender-related information and develop gendered behaviors. So this theory was introduced by Sandara and further expanded by Karl Martin and Charles Haberson. So this theory processed that children learn gender rules from their culture. So to simplify, ang gender schema or ang schema ang ginatawag is an idea of what it means to be a male or female into a certain culture. So this schema was built from the influence that we receive from the environment. So just like for example, if you grow up into a household wherein your parents taught you to behave or act appropriate according to your gender. So if you are female given by birth, then you need to act as a woman, and if you are male given by birth, then you need to act as a man. So, di ba ang gender schema is how the environment shape you as a person. So, that means kung paano ka gipadako, kung sino upod mo while you grow up, gaka-adapt mo na siya. So, that explains what is gender schema means. Gender identity. Children first develop a gender identity understanding themselves as male or female. They then form a gender schema, an organized set of beliefs about and expectations about gender. So, di ba pagbata sa ton, we are already categorized as male and female lang gid. So, as we all know, ang gender identity is a person's internal sense of their own gender. So, syempre, samtang gadako ta, di ba, mas ginakilala ta ton self. Just like, for example, if you are female given by birth, it may or it may not align sa imo gender pagdako. So it means someone who is female given by birth might be identified as a woman, pero sometimes female given by birth might also be identified as a man or a non-binary. One is the gender schema influence. So their behavior, thoughts, and interactions with the world shapes how they interpret informations and act according to their gender-related beliefs. So basically, ang gender schema is how the environment shape you as a person. Like, schema influence is ang behavior blang nga gakakitaan ta sa isa ka tawo.
So next is the biosocial theory. So this approach where nature or genetic factors and Nurture or environmental factors both play a vital role in gender development. This theory is based on case studies where it was seen that children born genetically as females but raised up as males through of themselves as boys. According to this theory, children were gender neutral at birth. Society and its expectation influence the children's gender identity. As the children grows up, the child begins to follow certain expectations. Social labeling and treatment given by society interacts with biological factors to direct the children's development. So, the biosocial theory of gender, it posits that both biological and social factor influence gender identity and roles. So, this theory suggests that while biology provides the potential for certain gendered behavior, social and cultural factors shape how these behavior are expressed.
And so, for this part of our reporting, I'll be discussing about symbolic interaction theories. According to symbolic interaction theorists, concepts like gender does not exist objectively, but they emerge through a process of social construction. Therefore, gender is not a personal attribute to something that is accomplished through interaction with others, such as society already dictates what to wear, how we walk, and the kind of language we speak, and the like. All the people we interact with on a daily basis play a role in either reaffirming the meaning of gender that we already hold, or in challenging it, or reshaping it. If one observes society, one sees that these gender groups are segregated right from their childhood. This strengthens the perception of gender differences, so meaning the differences are highlighted. So even when interaction between two genders occurs, there is a difference between the levels of powers and prestige. So symbolic interaction is a viewing society as composed of symbols that people use to establish the meaning and develop views about the world and the communication with one another.